Hi, I'm Caitlin Boren.
I'm Nathaniel Hines.
Nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you.
All right, so before we get into anything, how about we just kind of I want to get to know you a little bit. So tell me about yourself. Where
I
do you work?
am. I'm 22 years old. I work at a clinic, a physical therapy clinic. I am a physical therapist there now. It is my third year there. Um, I went to school at St. John's in Minnesota for my bachelor's. I graduated with a degree in psychology. Um, After that, I went on to graduate school at Creighton University. I met my wife there. She's also a physical therapist. Um, we have three kids together, which is hard to believe since I'm so young, but it happens. Um, yeah, work life is good. Um, it's long. The kids, since we have three kids and we're both working full time, my kids are staying at my wife's mom's during the day. We live nearby and she runs the daycare there. So my wife and I will drop them off every day, go about our daily business, go to work. We work at the same clinic, which is very, very nice. Pick them up and yeah, we'll just go home and do family things.
All right, so it sounds like you enjoy your job,
Yes.
and you said you've been there for 3 years at the same clinic. Is that what you said?
Yep. 3 years.
Okay. Wow. And are there any specific people or injuries that you work with, or?
Yeah, I base my client base around athletes. I was a sports player. I played soccer. I played lacrosse. I was pretty big into sports my whole life, and I also liked the medical field due to the hard science. I liked it. I also like psychology. It's very interesting. It's a very new field, so I figured I'd verse myself in psychology as well as the other hard sciences and base my job around sports. So everything I like.
Well, it's good to hear that you like psychology.
Yeah.
But so you have 3 kids already. That's pretty big. Do you have
Three
any
kids.
multiples or?
Yes, I have a set of twins. Multiples are in my family. I'm a triplet.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I've got two boys and a girl. The boys are twins. Yeah,
okay.
it's fun.
Okay, so it sounds like that you and your family have a pretty busy schedule. I mean, you said that both
Mhm.
you and your wife work full time.
Yeah.
But other than that, how is your home life?
Home life is good. My wife and I we have date night every once in a while, so our relationship is still going strong.
Mm-hmm.
We've been dating for a while now. Yeah, home life is just generally good. We've got a nice house. We live on a lake, so it's pretty relaxing out there at times. Sometimes it gets pretty stressful. I mean, we're young, we have lots of kids, and we're working full time. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of outside factors that come into
Right.
play and lead to stressful lives, but
Right.
we try to overcome.
That's good. Good. Well, what are your experience? Do you have any experience with therapy, or I mean, you said you were a psychology major, so
Hmm.
I mean, what are your thoughts or experiences related to therapy?
Um, well, I did take a clinical and counseling class.
Okay.
As far as that goes, that was just a semester.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I learned a fair share, but the only time I've actually been through real therapy was when I was a very young child. I don't remember it very well. I I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder as a young child. For school, my parents brought me because I really felt anxious for school.
Okay.
Before I went to school every day, I would find any excuse not to go because I just did not like it. I was very anxious, very.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to be there.
Okay. Okay. So, how long was your therapy when you were a child? How long did you go?
It was for roughly a year.
A year? Okay. And do you think it helped
I don't personally recall whether it did or not, but
because you were so young?
I didn't hate school as much as I did then till any time after that. So I suppose it helped because
Okay.
I finished school and I did about a bunch of years after. So.
All right. So, I mean, safe to say that your experience with therapy was a positive one.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as you remember.
Mhm.
Well, that's good to know. Good. Don't have to get over any weird biases about psychologists. Good.
Yeah.
Good. So, why don't you tell me what brings you here today?
Well, I've just been feeling pretty anxious recently. Yeah, I mean it's becoming winter time. The days are getting shorter. It's darker outside. I mean, we've been getting more rain, snow, stuff like that. Really, just bringing out an anxious side of me that I'm not. Yeah, that I'd just like to get over. I mean, I don't want to feel anxious about much anymore. I don't want to be scared of anything. I don't want to.
Okay. Okay. Well, you did mention that winter is coming and that the days are getting shorter. You said. Um, what about the days being shorter or winter? Does that make you more anxious?
Yeah. Since the days are shorter, it's hard to tell what's going on outside. I like to be in control of things. I like to know what's going on. I don't like to be susceptible to things that I am unfamiliar with or unaware of.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to have at least a grasp on what is happening rather than being in the dark, both metaphorically and
Right.
figuratively. Um, yeah, I just the dark brings out a side of me that just really stresses me out. Yeah, it's just really
Okay.
you don't know what's going on ever.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying a lot about how like you don't know what's going on outside or anything like that. And earlier you did mention something about how we've been getting more rain and snow in the winter. Um, is that what makes you more anxious, like snow and the rain, or?
I suppose natural storms, yeah. Storms really bother me. I become very uptight, anxious, I become scared, I protective of my family around storms. Um it gets dark, I don't like my kids playing outside too long because you can never tell if they're gonna get caught in a storm and stuck somewhere that you never know it's gonna really happen. So yeah, I'd say storms and rain and heavy winds and such really just stress me out because I think there's going to be a pretty big storm that can cause some damage to myself or my family or others around me.
All right. So sounds like what you're most worried about are storms occurring, and what what sort of event makes you the most nervous? Like, what of those, like rain, heavy wind, you said, what makes you most anxious?
I'd say a combination of all of them. The bigger storms, such as like a hurricane or a tornado, it's basically a combination of all the things I don't like: heavy winds, rains, darkness, lots of just things that are uncontrollable and can cause massive amounts of damage, I suppose.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, was like when did this start? When did your fears about storms and hurricanes and tornadoes
I
start?
had never been nervous about storms until 2005. Um, Hurricane Katrina was a big factor in my anxiety. Um, I had family in New Orleans at the time. They were a little bit northern, so they're alive today. But back during Hurricane Katrina, their house was they were flooded pretty bad. It was mutilated. It was non-repairable and unlivable. Um, as you can assume, my family. This is not directly my family, but my cousins were pretty close. So they they were they didn't have the resources to rebuild or find security, so they were basically sitting ducks for a while. They didn't have any livelihood. They were basically just prisoners to the government, and when they were gonna send help and such. And I ended up going down there to help them out. Ended up not having much play in the helping of their house because it was done. And but I also since I made the trip down there, I stayed for an extra 2 weeks and helped with cleanup and mobilization of people and stuff like that. I got to experience a lot of the devastation that Hurricane Katrina presented in 2005.
Okay. Okay. So that sounds like that was kind of the game changer for you, Hurricane Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And so were you initially, like, right away, once you started seeing all of that, like the devastation you mentioned a lot and with your family, did that immediately start to make you feel anxious about storms, or did it slowly come on, or?
Yeah, I'd say it came on pretty quickly, considering I saw families that could have been mine, could have been me. I saw individuals that were without family, food, water. I saw people who had lost loved ones, and basically I just figured I can't lose anybody, especially to something like this. We can't control it, but it is quite scary, and I just don't want to have to experience what my cousins and them had to experience for losing their house, and all the other families that I had to deal with who had lost possible loved ones that were never found and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, what you say that the hurricane is what started to make you feel anxious, and when did this start to move on to like tornadoes or even general small storms like rain?
I suppose it just started. I would assimilate all storms with this storm. I would see I'd see a tornado. I'd see a video of something where a storm caused uh, any kind of destruction on any property or family, anything that kind of chiseled away at the family's morale and like made them scared for their family and others. And I suppose tornadoes, because I know they kill people. I used to live in a town where somebody was killed by a tornado. So I started realizing that tornadoes can be just as bad as hurricanes. Um, Tornadoes oftentimes comes with rain. I started to think that a basic rainstorm can sprout like a bigger destruction path other than rain, like a tornado could come. Heavy winds, obviously, I can are similar, and they sprout for tornadoes. So heavy winds, darkness always came when these storms came about. The cloud cover and the rain clouds are dark, and the lightning. It just all like related back to storms, like the darkness, the heavy winds, and the rain.
Okay. Are there any, like, what type of situations do you not feel any worry or anxiety about storms? Are there any?
I suppose there aren't any that I'm not thinking about a possible storm, but there are situations where I'm very relaxed, as relaxed as I possibly can be, which would be like a nice day, blue skies, not a cloud in the sky. The forecast looks good for a couple days in advance, which tells me that there's a small chance that anything can really come about that is going to be destructive if they haven't seen anything in the radar. So I suppose good, nice weather days, low wind, just a good forecast, and no rain and such. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned the forecast. Do you check the forecast a lot, or how often would you say you check?
I have an hourly update on my phone. Tells me consistently about wind levels, chance of precipitation, stuff like that. Yeah, so I get an hourly update on my phone. I don't always check it at night, but if I do happen to wake up during the night, I'll check the weather to make sure nothing has been recently added to the forecast or not, because I just like to stay in the know.
Okay. Well, from what it sounds like, it sounds like you did have some generalized anxiety in your past, and I think that this worrying about storms and the fear that goes along with that may be related to that. And a lot of people have worries, and a lot of people have anxiety issues, and so it's not something it's just you. But I think that if you want to try and overcome this and be less worried about storms and stuff, I think that cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT for short, would be a very good way to go for you, because it's very structured, and it has a lot of it's very planned out on how we can get you to stop worrying so much about storms and stuff like that. And I think the best way to help you with this would be to use some systematic desensitization. And that basically means that we're going to be putting you, not right away in situations, but like first off, we would start off with thinking about storms and figuring out what type of triggers you have that start you worrying. And then we can move on to thinking about big storms. And then, because storms, you can't really control when storms happen, and we would start with watching videos of maybe a rainstorm at first, and then going on to thinking about looking at videos of larger storms like tornadoes, or maybe starting off with some heavy winds and just a tornado siren, and then maybe moving on to some bigger storms like actual tornadoes, and then looking at videos of maybe hurricanes, and then maybe getting up to watching some videos of Hurricane Katrina, because that sounds like that was the big issue for you. And then I think after that it would be a lot of waiting around, and it'd be a lot of self-implementing when you would actually feel up to maybe experiencing a storm, maybe going outside when there was some rain or heavy clouds or some heavy winds, stuff like that. But yeah, so that's eventually what we'd be leading up to slowly desensitize you to the big weather. Do you think that would be a good thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Good. And do you have any worries about that? Starting off with just like thinking about it, and then maybe some videos. Do you have any worries?
Not particularly. I know I'll become stressed, but I suppose that is the key, is to realize that you are fine and everything.
Work through that stress and fear.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, well, I guess this was a good starting point for us. Very good. And I think, how would you feel about some homework?
Yeah. As long as it's not too rigorous.
No, it won't be.
Okay.
How about, what I would want you to do would be to take a notebook or a piece of paper or whatever you have, and at the end of the day, start thinking, like listing down what you're worried about that day, what made you worried, what started you off worrying, and maybe write down how many times you're checking the weather, and how many times you start glancing out the window to see what the sky's like, and how many times you look at the update on your phone, and just kind of start realizing how much you're worrying about this. And then we can start on there, and then we can maybe start talking about the triggers and like list some of the stuff that you do to kind of deal with that, looking at that, and then maybe start thinking about minimizing how many times you can look at the weather, so that you can start to deal with this yourself rather than having that reassurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so next time you'll come with a list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I'm going to stop it.